So let's get into this. Where am I? Oh, hang on a sec. I'm just slightly lost here. Let's go here. So I'd like you to I need another self-compassionate moment right now. Okay, so I'd like you just to picture this scenario. Okay, you are a year 6 teacher in a primary school, and on parents' evening, a mum says to you about Ben, one of your 10-year-old pupils. He came home last week upset because you called him a troublemaker. It's outrageous. I don't want you humiliating and upsetting my child. You vaguely remember using that word and are shocked because you were joking and had no idea the child was upset. So how do you respond to this? And I'm imagining how you respond would depend on a number of factors, like how resourced you feel or your prior relationship with this parent and child. And you might be able to respond in a balanced way, and you may not. This parent's accusation and anger could trigger a reaction in you. So what would you want to be the objective of your response to this? If you think about it calmly and rationally, I believe in situations like this, what most of us want is to have the best chance of resolving the situation and maintaining a good relationship and to feel okay about ourselves. Essentially, by what we say next, we're trying to meet our very human need to stay in good relationship, our need for connection. However, in the upset of the moment, we're all capable of responding in ways that don't help us meet these needs. So we're just going to work with this example. I hope it's an example that you can all relate to in some way, but it applies to this kind of thing applies to any situation, whether it's at work or at home. Okay, so as the teacher, you might react like this. But I was joking. I'd never do anything to deliberately upset Ben. This is ridiculous. I think you're overreacting. Anyway, Ben's been fine with me since then. Okay, so I'm guessing that at some point in our teaching careers or our lives, we've all expressed upset and shock in ways like this. In other words, we've leapt into explaining or justifying and defending and judging others, right? So just let's consider a few things here. What is the teacher trying to achieve in this response? Explaining, justifying, defending seems to be aiming primarily to protect the teacher, and it's an attempt to clarify a misunderstanding. But if what you really want is to restore a good relationship and resolve the situation and get back into connection, it's probably not the most effective approach. So what do you think it would be like to be on the receiving end as a parent? I'm guessing this mum may get more angry than she already is when she hears you blaming her for overreacting. Also, she may think you just haven't acknowledged the impact on her child, whatever the reason for saying what you said. She may think you're just not taking it seriously and get more reactive. So the situation is likely to escalate when ultimately what we want is for it to be resolved. And let's just consider this question. What might be the consequences if the relationships don't get repaired? I mean, this situation actually happened to a teacher friend of mine. And from then on, she, as the teacher, she was on eggshells with this child and with these parents. And I imagine The parent might be distrustful and on the lookout for things they believe the teacher is doing wrong. So let's look at how else you might respond. So you could respond with empathy. Okay, it could sound something like this. I'm so sorry that you're upset and that Ben's upset. I'd like to first check and see if I've understood fully. So Ben told you that I called him a troublemaker and he was upset. And you sound alarmed and concerned, and you want me to understand that the word really impacted him. And I guess you also want to trust that your son is treated with respect and kindness at school. Would you like reassurance that I won't use that expression again? So we could respond in this way if we want to turn the conversation around and try to establish a good relationship, or re-establish the relationship. And what's happening here is that you are acknowledging and taking responsibility for the impact of your words, acknowledging what you imagine are the feelings and needs and wishes of the parent. We're staying away from blaming them and defending or shaming ourselves. We can acknowledge the other person's perspective and experience, even if we think that they have been unreasonable and we disagree with them. And we know for sure, if we react in a similar tone, that the situation is unlikely to improve. So what might it be like for the parent to receive a response like this? Hopefully it will be calming or settling for her, and she would be more open to hearing your perspective. But would it be easy for the teacher to respond like this? What might be the barriers to responding in a considered, humble, compassionate way, rather than reacting as in the first response? Well, a potential barrier to responding like this is that you may be judging this mother internally. So that might sound a bit like this. This mum has got the complete wrong end of the stick. She's overprotective. I haven't done anything wrong. She's making a mountain out of nothing. Okay, so that inner voice that's going on in your head. Okay, and if you're thinking this, it will be hard to de-escalate the situation, but possible. In reality, in situations like this, we'll all have some sort of internal response. Okay, if we're spoken to in a way that doesn't seem fair or reasonable to us, that's completely normal. We will be judging in some way. And another potential barrier to an empathic or compassionate response is that we may give ourselves a hard time if someone criticizes us. So you might judge yourself. I shouldn't have said that. I was unprofessional. Because Ben's a friend of my son and has been at my home, I thought it was fine to tease him and be playful. How could I have been so unaware? I could get into trouble now. I'll never be able to relax around that child again. Okay, so this kind of self-criticism leads to feeling ashamed, walking on eggshells, being nervous all the time with both the child and the parents, and too afraid to try and clear the air. So why does this happen? You know, judgments are habits due to our conditioning in right, wrong, good, bad. Okay, so that's one thing that NVC offers us is a real understanding of judgments are to do with the way we've been conditioned. Our nervous systems, in addition, are primed to detect threat and protect us with fight, flight, freeze reactions before we make a conscious choice about what to say. And we've all experienced a degree of trauma or scarring that makes us less flexible and more rigid, less feeling more defended. So we're up against all that when we want to respond with compassion. Okay, so having noticed our initial reaction and the judgments, there's now an opportunity to help ourselves to process this reaction with some self-empathy. So it might sound like this. This is self-empathy, so it's just speaking to yourself. Whew. When I hear her say, Ben came home upset because I called him a troublemaker and I shouldn't humiliate and upset kids, I feel shocked, confused, hostile, upset, regretful, scared. There's loads of feelings going on in me. And why? Because I'd really like a shared reality with her and Ben. I'd like to be seen for my intentions. I'd like understanding and emotional safety. And I wish I'd had awareness of how my words might impact Ben. So I'd like to tell them what's going on for me and what my intentions were when I said that. But right now, I'm going to take a breath and respond with empathy. So if you can respond to yourself with understanding and empathy, it's calming for your nervous system. And if you are calmer and not judging yourself, it sets you up to be in a far better state to respond constructively and from a more empowered place. So having de-escalated yourself with self-empathy, you may choose to let them know what's going on in you. And this is possible to do without blame or judgment. So you could actually express yourself in this way, something like this. Now, hearing you say that Ben was upset when I called him a troublemaker, I'm shocked and upset because it's important to me to create a caring and respectful learning environment. I'm regretting choosing those words because I want every child to feel safe and at ease with me. Would you be open to meeting with myself and Ben so I can try and clear things up with him and you? Okay. So just to recap, instead of justifying, defending or judging, which is likely to make it difficult to restore a good relationship, we can listen and respond with empathy. We can listen to ourselves with self-empathy, and we can express ourselves honestly without judgment. So these are the three modes of nonviolent communication. Okay. And there are 4 elements or steps that are central to the framework of NVC. Observations, feelings, needs, and request. So when we are listening and responding with empathy, we are receiving someone else's experience. Okay, so let's just break this down, okay, a little bit. So NVC offers us this a kind of real concrete model of how to communicate. And kind of once we've got the model, we can just relax it all and let it go. But I'm going to present to you the model, okay? So the observation. Ben told you that I called him a troublemaker and he was upset, okay? So you're just clarifying what actually happened here, okay? This is what happened, and it's what the parent is reacting to. So we're getting clear about the facts. There's no judgment or evaluation. These are the facts as reported by the parent. It's pretty much a quote, direct quote. And here we're just establishing common ground. An evaluation, on the other hand, as opposed to an observation, would be Ben overreacted to what I said. Okay, there you've interpreted the facts of the situation. And receiving the other person's feelings. So how might this parent be feeling? I've seen their facial expression, I've heard their words, their tone of voice. So I guess alarmed, concerned. Okay. And need. What could their need be? Acknowledgement of impact, trust in the teacher, respect and kindness. And then request. What do you imagine that the parent wants from you? Possibly reassurance that it won't happen again. Okay. So, to be able to respond in that way without defending and judging, we will need to have transformed any judgments of the parent and ourselves. So when you're practiced at this, you can just do it in a few moments. It becomes second nature. So listening to my judging and blaming, what are my thoughts about what I just heard? Okay. So I really can hear all the judgments. And I love this about NVC. It's not about getting rid of these judgmental thoughts. It's actually really listening to them. What am I actually judging? And then the observation. Okay, what did I actually see? What did I hear? What did I observe? Okay. I observed, that she said this direct quote here. And how do I feel? Okay, so I'm just really connecting with my own feelings. And what do I need right now? Okay. And then request, what action do I need to take to meet my needs or the need that's present at the moment? Okay, and in this case, I've chosen to, I'd really like to share what my intentions were, but I'm imagining that if I respond with empathy, that's going to increase the chances that I will be heard. Okay. So just if I just go through these steps again, this judgment, okay, overprotective. Notice I'm using a judgment. I'm labeling mum, I'm fixing her as always like this, instead of seeing her need to protect. When I'm saying the wrong end of the stick, I'm judging her for being wrong. Actually, I'd like to have mutual understanding and a shared reality. I haven't done anything wrong. This is really saying that I'm fearful about being judged and I want to be seen for my intentions. So we translate our thoughts into feelings and needs. Okay. And just coming back to the observation again, this is the trigger. Okay, this is the stimulus for my experience. Okay, these words. And also just to see that feelings are connected to needs. I'm shocked and confused because I need a shared reality with this parent and child. I feel hostile because I need to be seen for my intentions. I'm upset because I need empathy and understanding. I'm scared because I need emotional safety. I'm regretful because I wish I'd had awareness of the way my words could impact. Okay, and then the request is of myself. And here, I guess I really want this mum to understand that I was just being playful because I like Ben. I had no intention to offend. And beginning by responding with empathy enables me to start repairing the disconnect, and hopefully she'll be open to hearing my perspective after that. Okay, so moving on. When I express myself honestly, my intention is to reveal what's going on in me without blame or judgment. I talk about myself. And as you can see, these are the same 4 steps, but we're in the mode of honest self-expression here. Okay. So expressing my observation. I'm naming what I'm reacting to. In this case, the words Mum said. I'm expressing my feelings, which arise because of my needs. In other words, I feel because I need, not I feel because you. Yeah. I'm shocked and upset because it's important to me to create a caring and respectful learning environment. Just seeing the connection between my feelings and my needs. In common parlance, we say, I feel because you. I feel upset because, you said I humiliated your child. So our feelings have to do with our needs and the way we're thinking, but we tend to believe other people are the cause of our feelings. And that's actually disempowering because there's nothing I can do about my feelings if other people cause them. So this is the NVC frame here. Other people's words or actions stimulate, but are not the cause of our feelings and needs. So if I get clear about my needs, it empowers me to make a request to meet my needs. In this case, meeting with the child and the parents to acknowledge the upset will meet my need to reconnect and feel at ease in the classroom. Okay, rather than being on eggshells. And in the process, I hope to be heard for my intentions and create a shared reality around what happened. So that's the point of this request. Would you be open to meeting with myself and Ben so I can try and clear things up with him and you? So I just want to flag up that in some situations, it might not feel right to express yourself directly, okay? It's almost never helpful to say, I'm feeling angry, right? Although anger is a feeling, in NVC, we see it as really mixed in with judgment. And it's not helpful to express because it raises the other person's defenses. It's helpful to get to the more vulnerable feelings beneath the anger, often that's sadness or fear, and to express those. And also just to flag up that at work, we might choose not to express feelings if that doesn't seem appropriate, because expressing feelings takes people into a level of vulnerability that they may be unwilling to go to, or it might not just help the connection. Okay, so for example, you wouldn't tell a child, that I feel scared that you might complain to their parents. Yeah, because that may be true. I might be feeling scared that this child might complain to their parents, but that's not going to be appropriate. So I might express that to a colleague. And it might be more appropriate or connecting to say to Ben that you feel sad, that your words hurt him and you'd like him to feel at ease in the classroom. I'm aware this is a lot of information, so just bear with me. What I've tried to illustrate here is an NVC approach to a tricky situation that you might encounter, or it's just an example of a situation that any of us could encounter. And just to illustrate also the 4 steps of NVC: observation, feeling, need, request, and the 3 modes: listen and respond with empathy, self-empathy, and honest self-expression. And together, the 4 steps and the 3 modes, they sort of make up the framework of this, of NVC. And if at this point you're feeling overwhelmed and like, oh my God, that seems really complicated, yeah, just want to reassure you that this takes practice, but I just wanted to sort of give you an overview in a way. And I'd like to move now just into saying a little bit about where this work has come from. It was developed by a man called Marshall Rosenberg, and the work that he did with civil rights activists in the early 60s in the US. So he was a psychologist who was influenced by Carl Rogers and the concept of unconditional positive regard. And he was interested in how it was that some people react violently and others with compassion in difficult situations. He came to believe that we've been educated to think in a very particular way, a kind of right-wrong way. I touched on this earlier, but that's what he came up with, that this conditioning has created a world in which it's more likely that some individuals and some groups dominate others. And his vision is a world that works for everyone. And why the name Nonviolent Communication? Because it's a bit of a weird name. People, when you say that, people can often think it's about anger management or it's for people who get physically violent. But actually, the name comes because he was taking inspiration from the nonviolent protest movements led by Gandhi in India and Martin Luther King in the US. So he wanted to keep that tradition of nonviolence that he took inspiration from. And this training in NVC has been used to resolve conflicts and differences at the personal level. It's used at the professional level, political level, schools, prisons, refugee camps, with couples, families, for personal development. So it's applicable just about everywhere. And just want to see, are there any questions, Chantal? Maybe just to take a pause for a minute. And
there aren't any questions at the moment, Cath.
Okay.
I think we're all really enthralled listening to what you're saying. It's so interesting.
Okay, good. I'll just carry on then. That's fine. Okay, so I hope the example of the scenario sort of illustrated how useful it is to aim for connection rather than correction when we're in a tricky or a conflict situation. Okay, if we want to re-establish a good relationship. Okay, we all feel more relaxed and at ease when we're in connection with others, and being out of connection is uncomfortable, it's unsettling, sometimes it's extremely unpleasant. And so basically the purpose of NVC is to help us to transform our own reactive patterns of defensiveness, aggression, denial, rejection, withdrawal, and also, people pleasing, being super nice. Okay, to transform those patterns into a quality of connection that we enjoy and that feels safe. And it also helps us to re-establish that quality of connection when we've lost it. And if we're really going for connection, our intention is everything. When we speak, especially if our nervous system is activated, it's really good to check with yourself. Is my intention connection or correction? Yeah. Do I want to connect with this person and see their humanity, or do I want to be right? And to have enough inner space to choose connection over correction, we need to slow down. Even just taking a breath can make all the difference. And I guess this is where the mindfulness practices are really helpful in the slowing down, in the creating space, is to bringing the possibility of some awareness in so we can choose how to respond. And NVC offers us a way to calm ourselves with the self-empathy, that just listening to our own judgments and our feelings and our needs and what's going on with us. And as we get practiced and fluent in the language of feelings and needs, it's easier to calm ourselves with enough self-empathy. And we can do it in seconds, and then just proceed with responding with empathy or expressing ourselves with honesty. So I'm guessing many of you know this quote by Viktor Frankl, the Nazi concentration camp survivor. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and freedom. So I think the mindfulness practices really help us create that space. And NVC, self-compassion, self-empathy, helps us to create that space. And then NVC offers us all these skills around how to actually respond skillfully and what to actually say once we are in choice. So let's assume that my intention is to connect with someone. Perhaps there's been some kind of rupture or misunderstanding. So how did the teacher attempt to reconnect with the parent? The key here is valuing and appreciating human needs and feelings, our own and the other person's. Okay, this is what NVC is offering, is that this key piece is around human needs. Okay, this is not an exhaustive list of needs. Okay, and in a moment you will get to practice with your own situation about the needs that could be at play. But I mean, maybe just take a moment right now and just see, are there any of these needs that are up for you in this moment, either met or unmet? Just see if there's one that jumps out at you. Let's be curious about why this particular one jumps out at you. Noticing the headings will help to sort of guide you. These are all physical at the top, and then into three main psychological groups: learning, relating, and autonomy. Yeah, and just if there's one that does jump out at you, just notice what's it like to simply acknowledge to yourself that you have this need, you have this is something you value, it's important to you, it matters to you. Okay, so we'll return to this in a moment with a trigger situation. Okay, so here are the principles on which this body of work is based. There's a number of principles. These are just 3. So, first principle is that all human beings share the same feelings and needs. When I say principles, you could say these are some assumptions that NVC makes, principles. So it's for you to consider and see, check it out. Does this make sense that all human beings share the same feelings and needs? It's like, I have a need for nourishment, I have a need for competence, I have a need for support, and so do you. Okay. And there's something about beyond our age differences, our gender differences, our cultural differences, our religious differences. There is something common that we share, and these are our human needs. And the second principle, whatever anyone says or does is an attempt to meet a need. So if I don't like what someone says or does, I can choose to ask myself, what need are they trying to meet in doing what they're doing? What matters to them? What's important here? And if I can get down to this essential level of what they care about in this moment, it makes it easier to connect with them, to understand their behavior, because I also share this need. It's what makes us both human. So this wondering about the motivation behind someone's behavior helps us to get curious. And it can be helpful to also say to yourself, if I had lived this person's life, maybe I too would be doing what they're doing. And then the third principle, we all do better when the choices we make care for everyone's needs. So not just one person's needs or some groups of people's needs. It's in any conflict situation when all the needs are considered, everyone has a better chance of thriving. So in the example earlier, the parent seemed to have a need for acknowledgement of how words had impacted her child, also trust and respect and kindness. And the teacher validated these needs, and also the teacher expressed her own needs. Okay, her needs around respect and kindness, and the teacher made a request, a meeting with the child and the parent to clear things up. That would meet the teacher's need for a mutual understanding about what happened, a shared reality to be understood for her intentions. So NVC is a needs-based approach, and it's a paradigm shift from the world that we live in that's very much about right, wrong, win, lose. Okay. NVC is a mindset. It's not just simply language skills. It means choosing to live and relate according to these principles. Like to choose in any situation to look through this lens of the human needs at play, your own and other people's. And it's actually quite a simple notion. But how often do you actually check in with yourself around what you're feeling and what your needs are? So needs arise with feelings and sensations. So just take a moment right now, if you would, to check in with how you're feeling. Okay, and it might just be easier to start with sensations in the body like tension, constriction, heaviness, lightness, expansion. And then ask yourself, if this sensation had an emotional tone, what would that be? It's not a given that we can feel our feelings. Many of us have been cut off from actually feeling our feelings. It's a strategy to keep us safe. I certainly have that as my own experience, and I had to practice to feel my feelings. But the cost of being cut off from our feelings, it means we're missing out on experiencing our life force, our life energy. Yeah, so just taking a breath, taking a moment, just noticing what feelings are present for you. Okay. So this world of feelings and needs is probably a bit alien to you. It's not the world most of us live in. We don't pay attention to or talk about feelings and needs very much. Okay. The world that we actually live in is one which we mainly look through the lens of our thoughts. So these kind of, we label each other good, bad, right, wrong. Okay. We judge, we use the words should and shouldn't. We have the language and thinking of no choice. It's a lot about I can't, you have to, I have to. Yeah. It's the language and thinking of shame and blame, comparing, who's better, who's worse. Punish and reward. The school system is, and often parenting system, is based on punish and reward. Okay. So Marshall called this kind of right-wrong thinking and language, he called it jackal. And in a moment I'm going to show you the jackal puppet that he used. But he used that because he talked about the jackals have very sharp teeth. Maybe I'll just stop sharing for a minute and get the jackal puppet out. If you watch any videos of Marshall Rosenberg, he uses these puppets, you know, and it's just a kind of shorthand for this language and thinking of judging and blaming and who's right and who's wrong. And jackals, you know, that's the wolf in Europe. They have very sharp teeth and they can be pretty sneaky. But they too have a soft heart, you know, and so what we're doing in NVC is to translate the jackals into feelings and needs. And while I'm here, he had a shorthand for the approach, the attitude where we tune into feelings and needs, and he called this giraffe. So he chose the giraffe to symbolize feelings and needs, observations and requests, because the giraffe has the biggest heart of all land mammals. You know, got to pump the blood all the way up there, I guess. They have special saliva that enables them to dissolve the thorns of acacia trees, which is why they can eat those leaves. So it's a kind of quite a cool analogy with this. What we're doing with the giraffe is dissolving all the judging and blaming that we're hearing, either from ourselves, towards ourselves, or from someone else. And the giraffe just hears feelings and needs. This very long neck means they have the overview. The giraffe can see the bigger picture, okay, the wider perspective other than what's been actually said. Okay. So, thank you. There's something in the chat. Yes, Yes, this mindfulness practices. Yeah, slowing down, looking serene, but internally you're managing all the judgments. I like that. Sylvina, thank you. Yeah. Okay, giraffes. Okay, I'm going to go back to my slides, and we're nearly at the place where you're going to get to practice your own example. So let's come back. Yeah. Have I just... Yeah, so we're moving into this different world in NVC where we're interested in needs and feelings. We're interested in the observation. What happened? Okay. And how do I feel about it? And the needs, what's important to me or what's important to us? What do I value? What do you value or need? Okay, so that's the paradigm shift into this different world. Okay, so my invitation now is for you to, if you'd like to reflect by yourself individually, and I'll talk you through it, on a situation from your work life or your home life, any interaction. And you get to apply this needs lens when there's a disagreement or a disconnect, okay? And hopefully to experience a shift into a new paradigm. So if you've got pen or paper, that's great, or you can type onto your computer, but some way of recording this process now that I'm going to take you through. Okay, and it'll be about 15 minutes. So the purpose of this exercise is, to have what I call a shift. Okay, it's to have a shift. And by that, is to experience a shift in what you're thinking or a shift in how you feel. Okay, and you're shifting paradigms from a habitual one of shame and blame into one that focuses attention on feelings and needs. And to understand this shift, it's helpful to imagine a connection continuum. Okay, and on one end, there's disconnection, defensiveness, aggression, withdrawal, or just people pleasing, being really nice. And on the other end, you've got connection, okay, or compassion. And in any given moment, we're all somewhere along this line in relation to another person, other people. And when we interact with other people, we're constantly moving back and forth on this line from moment to moment, feeling more or less in connection with them. And this exercise is a tool to move yourself towards a more compassionate state, more connection, even in difficult moments. Okay, so thinking about your own tricky situation, you're just going to work alone and I'll talk you through it. So think of something somebody said to you that you didn't like hearing, or recall a piece of behavior that you didn't like. So I know Chantal asked you to think of something and come along with something in mind. Even if you haven't prepared anything, can you think of a moment, a trigger moment where you saw something or heard something from someone else that you didn't like? Okay. So you can think of one on the spot, or think about the situation you prepared in advance. It could be something that happens regularly. You're not going to be asked to share this with anyone, so it's completely private, and you choose anything you like. So, you know, an example could be an argument with your partner, or a disagreement at work or a comment that hurt you. Choose something that's live, that has some kind of charge to it. It's not fully processed. And for your own self-care, and I encourage you not to choose your most traumatic situation, the most something really overwhelming that you're absolutely furious about. And the reason for that is, you know, you're just going to practice something here, and I really want you to stay in the learning zone and not get stimulated into something that takes you into a trauma response or anything. So on a scale of 1 to 10, if 1 is something that hardly bothers you and 10 is something that's your biggest life trauma, just go for a 4. You know, something that's got a charge but it's not overwhelming. You'll just have more success in shifting if you choose something that's not so huge. And then write down the exact quote. What did this person say? And they may have said lots of things, okay? Choose one sentence or one word or a phrase that they said that just before you felt some activation in your system. We don't need any storyline or background. It's just a quote. And if you can't think of what someone said, you could describe a piece of behavior. And this is the observation, okay? So we want to be very factual here. No judgments in it. So, for example, my son put polystyrene in the recycle bin. That's an observation, something you saw, and then you had a reaction. Or my partner said, I forgot to do the shopping. Direct quote. Okay. What happened that stimulated my reaction? And this can be trickier than we think, because often we are so quick to interpret and make assumptions. Something that a camera would record. If you're going for a piece of behavior, what did the camera record? Take any of your judgments or interpretations out. It's often safer to go with a quote because it's something that someone said. We know that that's true and that actually happened. And then the next step is to write down your judgmental thoughts. Okay? So how are you judging the other person? Okay? So here you get to use they should, they shouldn't, any kind of blame, any labels. So what's wrong with them? Okay. So labeling adjectives, nouns, they are an idiot, selfish, whatever it is. Just encourage you, here you're letting your jackals howl, you're letting them out, you're writing them down. This is just for you. They contain important information. So we want to hear the judgments. And include any judgments of yourself here, the jackal in. How you might be judging and blaming yourself. What's wrong with you? So now we're going to bring our emotional intelligence to the situation and translate these thoughts, moving from your head to your heart. So give yourself a little heading, a subheading, my feelings. And under the My Feelings columns, once you've got this a little heading, write down how you're feeling when you think about your observation. When you think about the words that you heard or the piece of behavior, and how are you feeling now in relation to it? Let's bring it into the present moment, right now, recalling that situation. How are you feeling? And I'm going to encourage you to have a look at this list of feelings and use this list to find the words that match your experience. There are so many words in the English language that we use as feelings that are not actually feelings, they're judgments. So to avoid that, I really encourage you to find words on this page. Words like rejected, ignored, abandoned are actually judgments. So we want to weed out all the judgments and say, how are you feeling now, recalling that situation? And I want to acknowledge it may not be easy to feel. Yeah, for reasons I was saying earlier. So just tuning in as best you can and just making a list. All the feelings present in you right now as you recall that situation. Okay. So, hope you've had enough time with the feelings. Just making yourself another subheading. Okay. And give it the title My Needs. And write down what you are needing and not getting the moment you heard those words, the moment you saw that behavior. What needs were up for you? Okay, what were you longing for? And I'm going to give you a list of needs to have a look at. So the subheading is My Needs. And we're just taking some time here. You know, someone was writing in the chat, we don't often connect with our own needs, it's always someone else's. So this is the place where we really listen to your needs. When you heard those words, saw the behavior, what were you longing for? Our needs are our life force. Just life force, life energy wanting to be met. Okay, so just coming back to this slide, and when you're ready, making a new subheading, their feelings. I'm going to ask you now to step into the other person's world, if you are willing. Okay? And, you know, step into their shoes and imagine things from their perspective. Okay? And if you don't want to do this, it's because you need to spend more time with yourself in your own feelings and needs. So if it feels possible for you, then this new heading, their feelings. Okay, and write down here what you imagine the other person was feeling when they said what they said or did what they did. This is guesswork. You don't know. But this is the curiosity about the other person. It's your willingness to be curious about them and their humanity. What do you imagine was going on for them? And make a list. Okay, and then last subheading, their needs. So writing down here what you imagine the other person was needing when they said what they said or did what they did. What need were they attempting to meet? Or maybe they were meeting their needs. So what do you imagine their needs were? Everything we say or do is an attempt to meet a need. So what's your best guess? What were they longing for? What were they trying to get? Making sure it's a word on this list so we avoid any judgments. Okay. I hope you've had enough time to do that. And just invite you now just to let it all go and just take a moment to check in with yourself and see if you notice a shift in how you feel about what was said to you, or how you feel about how you feel towards the person that said it. Check if you think you may have a way of thinking about this that wasn't there before, or if you just feel less upset than when you started. And if you do, then you've had a shift. You've consciously moved yourself towards connection and compassion. And I hope you enjoyed that. And if you feel the same or worse, you may want to try again, perhaps with the same situation, give it a little bit more time, or on a subject that's not so hot for you. Not everybody experiences a shift the first time they do this, but with practice, people say over and over, they have more success in shifting. It's a bit like developing a muscle. Okay. So I just want to acknowledge we are over that time now. It's 46. So I appreciate you may want to get going, but I just want to say, just notice if it's evoked a lot of emotions in you doing this exercise, and just to take a few breaths, some deep, long exhales, just to regulate a little bit. You might want to just shake it out a moment. And I'm going to stop the share. And so if you have the time and the willingness to stay, I'd love to hear anybody who did or didn't have a shift, or anybody who would like to share their experience. You're very welcome, but I fully appreciate we're at the max time now. So
Thank you so much, Cath. It's been so insightful, as you can see from the lovely comments everybody is writing. It's really so interesting. I mean, I wrote so many notes as I was listening to you, but it's incredible how many needs. When you see that chart, it really hits you how many needs. And just emphasizes the importance of self-reflection, and really thinking about things. And as you sort of being human and recognizing another person's humanity, I think it's a really beautiful message. I sort of feel this should be sort of obligatory listening for everybody.
Yeah.
It's really a wonderful session. And we've so many options. As you said, we have that choice to respond.
Yeah.
It's really very powerful session, Cath. Thank you so much. We're so grateful.
Yeah, you're welcome. And that exercise we did, that's a really foundational practice of NVC. So you can just do it over and over again with a situation, but it does take practice. So you need to kind of do it in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, to sit down. Something's activated me. What is it? And just it's all silent. That's not involving any dialogue at all, but it can really support. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I like hearing somebody had a shift. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah.
Wonderful and very practical tool. And again, just thank you so much for taking the time to be with us and sharing this, as I know it's a new topic for many people. So you've sort of really opened our minds and our worlds this morning.
Yeah, and I mean it's a big topic, and we've just done that in an hour and a quarter. So if it feels a bit like, oh my God, I could never do that, I just want to reassure people it's absolutely learnable. And
yes.
And, if you're interested, you could do a foundation training. There are some links in the slides I've found 2 trainings coming up in January, sort of 12-hour, 13-hour trainings online, where you get to get much more of a handle on all of this and practice with people, and it's interactive. So if anybody's interested, it'd be great to see people there.
Yeah, thanks very much,
Yeah.
Kath, and also Kath's website. I don't know if you shared it at the beginning, maybe. If you'd like to look at it, as Kath mentioned, there are lots of links to training courses that she's doing. If it's something that you would like to learn more about, uh,
Yeah, I can just share for a minute. It's just the
yeah,
last couple of slides. But just, I think you're going to send these out, aren't you? So
yes, yeah,
I've got a book list if people want to read and for sort of next steps. And then these are all live links to different, to how you can take this further. Yeah.
mm,
And yeah, websites, etc.
yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you, Kath, and
Okay.
thanks to everyone again for being here this morning, for supporting the session. We'll be having a little break now for the holidays, and so the next session will be in January, and we'll have Adrian Bethune with us, who wrote a book, Wellbeing for the Primary Classroom, and we'll be talking about managing stress and how stress can also be good as well for us sometimes. So that'll also be an interesting session, no doubt. Okay, so I'll stop the